we're diving into this delightful scene where a grandma takes her grandson to the zoo to learn Spanish. It's playful and so, full of heart, don't you think?
Absolutely. It's like a little adventure in language learning. The use of the zoo setting immediately grabs attention, and, the vocabulary is both fun and memorable.
Right, and what's interesting is that the setting, the zoo, is used as the backdrop to introduce Spanish words. For instance, she says zoológico for zoo. It's like, contextualizing language.
Yeah, exactly. It makes learning feel organic, as if language is hiding in the everyday world, which definitely reinforces retention.
And then we have the animals. First is the elephant, which she teaches as elefante. It's such a fun, almost musical word, don't you think?
Definitely. For sure. There's something rhythmic about it, like it rolls off the tongue. It's a perfect example of how pronunciation can be engaging for young learners.
And then there's the lion, león. Short, strong, and noble, almost like the animal itself. I mean, the choice of words here really sparks your imagination.
Totally. I wonder, though, if perhaps it might have been even more engaging if some background explanations on why these words sound the way they do had been included. What do you think?
That's a fair point, but I think the charm here lies in its simplicity. The back and forth between Grandma and her grandson, with words like mono for monkey, keeps it light and fun without overloading the child.
Right. Storytelling over extensive explanations can be more impactful for a young audience. It's like when we learn by watching someone live it rather than reading a manual.
Exactly. And then there's the giraffe. Jirafa. Notice the little twist in pronunciation? It's almost playful, like a tongue twister in its own right. Kind of, capturing curiosity.
Yep. Right, and it makes you think about how language sounds can vary so much with a minor change in spelling. It really sparks an interest in linguistic nuances.
Moving on, we encounter pingüino for penguin. I love how the diaeresis emphasizes the correct pronunciation. It's subtle, but important for clarity.
Absolutely. It's an elegant reminder that little marks in language matter a lot, especially in Spanish. But sometimes I wonder if such details could confuse a learner at first.
You've got a point there. It might be a bit challenging initially, but in this context, it's presented in a very gentle, conversational way. No overload, just reinforcement through repetition, right?
Yes, and speaking of repetition, the final review game where Grandma recaps elefante, león, mono, jirafa, pingüino, serpiente, ties everything together really nicely.
And let's not forget serpiente for snake. The alliteration and the unique sound of the word really add a twist to the lesson. It's like a mini vocabulary workout.
Yeah, it's clever how each animal is paired with its Spanish counterpart in a way that reinforces the learning process. But don't you think the sequence is a bit too linear?
I see what you mean. Maybe a little more interactivity between revisions could have elevated it further. However, its straightforward sequence perfectly mirrors how children often learn new words, through constant exposure and repetition.
That's true. The beauty also lies in its simplicity. Each term is repeated clearly, allowing those little learners to build confidence.
And the narrative tone is so warm. It really feels like you're in that zoo with them. Imagining the sounds of animals and the heartfelt dialogues makes it lively.
Definitely. Exactly. There's an element of performance here, like the grandmother's delivery is calculated to spark excitement. It's almost theatrical in a subtle way.
Yeah, it's like, a mini theater of language learning. And the grandson's enthusiastic responses, like exclaiming each Spanish word, keep the momentum. It's infectious almost.
Yep, right. And that enthusiastic back and forth mirrors a real-life interactive learning session. It makes it feel very authentic.
Absolutely. And it's interesting how the setting, a zoo, is such a clever choice. Not just for the diverse vocabulary, but because kids associate zoos with fun and adventure.
True. It turns the lesson into an experience rather than just a rote name and define exercise. I highly appreciate that method of contextual learning.
Exactly. Plus, the natural flow of conversation ensures that the learning doesn't feel forced at all. It's, natural and spontaneous.
Yeah, right. And speaking of natural, the dialogue transports you straight into that scenario, almost like you're sneaking a peek at a real family moment.
Which makes me think this approach could really work as a template for other subjects too. Imagine learning history or science with a similar narrative exposition, right?
I agree, but here's a little counterpoint. While the narrative is charming, some might say that more structure or a gradual buildup of concepts could benefit children who need that extra scaffolding in language learning. What do you think?
That's a valid critique. Sure, a bit more structure might help in formal settings, but the informal, enjoyable nature of this conversation is its strength. It appeals to kids who, crave engaging and fun interactions rather than rigid
Right,
lessons.
exactly. Indeed, context matters. For a casual family learning moment, this works so well. And the praise at the end, perfecto, learning Spanish is fun, is so encouraging.
Oh, for sure! That final affirmation ties the whole experience up on a high note. It's like the cherry on top of an already delightful learning session.
Absolutely. It reinforces the idea that language learning can be a positive, rewarding adventure. Plus, it leaves the young listener feeling empowered to try the words out loud.
Exactly. And that feeling of empowerment is key. It's, like when you finally solve a puzzle. Everything clicks and you feel unstoppable.
Yeah, right. And the repetition throughout ensures that the words are cemented in memory. I like how both the repetition and review game create a strong feedback loop for young learners.
That's a great point. The repeated exposure to the vocabulary words, interspersed with interactive conversation, makes it really effective. It also sets up a safe space for mistakes and corrections, which is essential in language learning.
Absolutely. Yeah, and by listening to the grandmother's patient and lively explanations, the listener gets a model for both language use and, well, engaging conversation style.
Exactly! What impresses me the most is how natural the learning flow is. It's not just about memorizing words, it's about experiencing language. In a zoo, with real animals and
True.
a lot of joy.
All in all, it's a cute, effective, and very human way of learning Spanish. It shows that education doesn't always need to be formal to be impactful.
Absolutely! It's both a heartwarming narrative and a smart educational tool. And if that doesn't inspire anyone to visit a zoo and say jirafa with a smile, I don't know what will.
Yeah, indeed. Well said. A simple conversation that clearly brings language to life while inviting learners to embrace the fun of discovery.
And that wraps up our deep dive into this delightful journey of language, animals, and family fun. Thanks for joining me in savoring every elefante and
Absolutely.
serpiente.
Thanks for tuning in. Until next time, keep exploring, keep learning, and always find joy in the small moments.